Hey guys, it's Mario here, and in this video I want to talk to you a bit about fat loss. I want to simplify things. I want to put things in the right perspective, and this is something that I have to make a video on because I see that a lot of people being confused with so much marketing bullshit out there that is pushing supplements, that is pushing nutrient timing, that is pushing certain specific foods, saying that there are some magical foods that burn body fat, or there are some supplements that if you take that supplement it magically just makes you shredded, which is all a bunch of nonsense. And anytime when I see that marketing is focused on one little specific principle, I can see how that is very attractive to people. I can see that people are very attracted to when you tell them this is the exact thing that you have to do, this little simple little thing, and that's gonna get your results. You know, you just have to take this pill, or you just have to take this food, or you have to just do this little thing. And it's kind of a surprise to me that people still believe that it's just about one thing. You know, people still believe that it's just about that special magical thing. While in reality, if you look across all the diets, that's kind of how you should think about this if your goal is to kind of get maximum return on investment in both terms of your money, effort, and time. When you're looking at fat loss, why not look at what are the most successful people doing, but across all different types of diets out there. So let me put this in the right context. So let's say someone is a vegan, and that person getting ripped, that person is getting shredded. Okay, look at what that person is doing. And then look at what someone is doing that is getting shredded on paleo. And see where these things overlap. See what are the overlapping principles between something that is such an extremely different diet, paleo and vegan. I mean, it's completely different foods. Most likely these people wouldn't be able to go to the same restaurant. They wouldn't be able to lead the same lifestyle. But people are getting shredded on both approaches. I mean, bodybuilders have been getting shredded on all kinds of weird diets ever since the 70s, 80s. I mean, following all sorts of fads and bro science. And there are certain principles that we can see that are the overlapping principles that give you that fat loss. So number one concept, I mean, being in a caloric deficit. We know that calories count. I mean, someone who says that energy balance equation doesn't hold, and now in time making this video, it's 2016. I mean, come on, dude. Like, there's hundreds of studies. We're talking about 5 to 10 decades of research looking at, if you compare everything, you can see exactly that people who have lost weight have been in a negative energy balance. That means that they've provided their body with less calories than their body was burning, so the body had to take the energy out of the body fat to compensate for that lack of energy that would normally come from food. This is a principle that is same whether you're vegan, whether you're keto, whether you're paleo, whether you're low carb, high carb, whatever kind of diet you're following, managing your calories is the number one step. That's the first thing you want to handle. The second thing that is kind of the commonality between all the diets is having a sufficient amount of protein. And this is not because protein has some kind of magical properties. I mean, it is as close to a magic pill as you can get in terms of fat loss, where it gives all kinds of benefits such as making you feel fuller, helping you retain and build muscle mass, helping you in general be healthier. But the point is that it's not a magic pill, even though it has all of those benefits. But we can see that across all the diets that are more successful are the people who were eating higher protein amounts. So we're talking about somewhere around a gram per pound of lean body mass as a good figure to aim at. The third core principle that I want to point out here, and something that I think is often overlooked by people, is that after you kind of manage your calories and your protein, you can pick your carb to fat ratio any way you want. Right? If you're someone who's doing a lot of high intensity training in the gym, if you're doing bodybuilding style of work, if you're doing strength training, if you're doing CrossFit, it's probably a better idea to try to go a little bit higher in carbs and keep those fats a little bit lower, right? You just need that energy to be able to put out the maximum amount of performance that is a short-term burst of performance, such as an intense set in the gym. If you're someone who isn't doing that much activity, or someone who is training, let's say, 2 to 3 times a week, not very intensely, you can get away with a low to moderate carb intake without any kind of problems, right? And we have to put things that in the right context based on your activity level. That's going to determine whether you're going to go high carb or lower carb. But any approach you take will work the same way as long as you keep the calories the same and as long as you keep the protein amount the same. It has been proven in research that the amount of carbs to fats, the ratio doesn't matter as much as just having that high protein and managing those calories, which is the most important factor. And lastly, I want to mention here is that you want to base the majority of the foods you're eating from high quality, whole, unprocessed food. And the reason why this is important is because your mind, your brain, and the world we live in today isn't congruent with the instincts that we have when it comes to food. You see that there's a mismatch. The types of food that we are exposed to today, they're high calorie density, high fat, high sugar foods that we can't necessarily control ourselves around. So our food environment is designed in a way to make us overeat. Our food environment is literally an environment that if we had in the past, we would be gorging, we would be eating until we die, right? Because we are, as quote unquote hunter-gatherers, we still inherited that type of brain and that type of metabolism that is favoring that if there is a lot of food, well, you better store some fat because one day there's gonna be a famine and you're gonna be in trouble if there's no body fat. So when your body has access to a lot of food, and especially high calorie density, high sugar, high fat foods, it is going to favor those foods, it is going to overeat on those foods. And it's important to understand that simplifying your diet in a way and avoiding making most of your intake from those highly processed foods will make sure that you can stick to that calorie deficit if your goal is fat loss a lot easier. So you're gonna be less hungry, you're gonna be less craving the food, and there's some pretty good research that if you tend to avoid or minimize those highly processed, high fat, high sugar foods, that your brain centers are slowly rewiring to crave the food less. Because if you are eating those foods on a regular basis, if you have a habit of just say, let's say eating like half of your food from highly processed sources, you might find yourself craving those foods a lot, and you might find yourself thinking about those foods. You might be just getting a strong pull to those foods. And it's not to say that you can't control yourself with the calories and the protein when you eat those foods, but it is a lot harder to stay within your calorie limit if you are eating that amount of calories, and that type of food is generally not very filling. It's not gonna give you that satiety that you need compared to a diet based mainly on fruits, vegetables, lean protein, foods that are simple, single ingredients that promote health versus foods that are there to basically have you maximize the profit for a food company, or something like just give you that pleasure feeling, which is just reinforcing that food reward hypothesis that I really like as a nice theory that put out by Stephen Guyenet and a bunch of researchers of obesity, that is really something to be aware of as we're living in this food environment that is literally designed to make us overeat. And I think a lot of people are not really conscious of this, and it's not our fault. I mean, we're not being thought about this in schools, where the education system doesn't point this out. We've literally isolated certain ingredients that our brain finds very, very tasty, such as the ingredients that you would find normally in just tiny amounts in certain natural occurring foods. We've isolated these foods like MSG and things like that, and we put that in our food today. That makes the food extremely, extremely tasty, and we simply cannot resist overeating that food, which now for us in this current context, in this current environment that we live in, is quite dangerous for health. While in the past, I mean, if you find a cheeseburger in a desert, if you're dying out of hunger, that's probably the best lottery winning thing you can do, right? In that context, it's amazing, right? It's helping you survive. But in today's environment where we have an abundance of food, in this context, that's probably not the best idea for you, right? So it's important to look at how the context has changed and how we've evolved over time now to really have to restrain ourselves. And there is some restriction always. I mean, any kind of dieting in today's environment will have to involve some kind of restriction. I mean, that's just an illusion that we often have, that we can just intuitively eat, or that we can just kind of let our instincts or our brains decide what we're gonna eat. If I let my brain decide what I'm gonna eat, I would eat chips and ice cream and pizza all day, right? If I literally just let myself loose. There has to be some kind of control. Because of the food environment that we live in today, we cannot let ourselves quote unquote loose, because that would lead to a very, very poor outcome, and we will get, I mean, in trouble in terms of health and also in terms of our body composition, it's going to be a train wreck, right? And we can see that happening with the standard American diet, where most people are eating intuitively, but we can see what that happened there. I mean, 2/3 of people are dealing with weight problems. We have very, very high rates of obesity across all Western countries. And that one part of that is not just the understanding that people don't know that the calories don't count. I mean, it's pretty logical. I think most people know that if they would eat less, they would lose weight. But it is still a problem where that food environment is stimulating so much that you cannot deal with those cravings, you cannot deal with that amount of hunger, so it makes that management of calories a lot harder. I mean, this is a tangent that I went on a little bit here just to kind of dive into that mismatch of our evolution versus our current food environment, which is literally not letting us, number one, be active as our body demands that activity, and number two, it's providing us with a very, very large amount of calories that we don't necessarily even need in a lot of situations where we're sedentary, where we're not as active, our jobs involve sitting at a laptop, we don't move around that much. So that's kind of creating that huge issue. And then we're talking about insomnia, not being able to get enough sleep because of high stress and these types of environments that we live in today. Really, we have to take control of that. It is our responsibility to educate ourselves, to manage our calories, where to get that protein from, how to get yourself to be more active, standing desk, moving around, taking the stairs, parking your car a little bit further from the office so you can take that walk to the office there to get some extra calories burned. Basically getting yourself out of that sedentary lifestyle as much as possible, and then making those healthy food choices, picking foods that will keep you fuller, that will have that satiety effect on you to allow you to stay with those lower calorie intakes while still having that satisfaction of being full and being able to live your life and fueling you to be passionate, to be able to put out work that will make this world a better place. So hope you guys enjoyed a little kind of a mini rant here, I guess, on the current state of the industry, of the current state of the environment that we live in, and what are some of the basic principles to be aware of when it comes to fat loss. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below how this resonated with you. How do you find that mismatch and dealing with that mismatch where we have such strong cravings? And I mean, right now I'm looking around myself, I can see like 4 places where I can buy ice cream in, let's say, less than 3 minutes. 4 places right around. I'm looking around these. There's 4 places where I can buy ice cream. It's gonna take me 10 calories to walk there to buy that ice cream. It's gonna take me a couple of dollars, and that ice cream is gonna provide me more calories than a hunter-gatherer would have probably in a whole day of hunting. Think about that for a second. Such a huge shift in the environment, and my evolution and my body is still that similar body to that hunter-gatherer tens of thousands of years ago. And how my body is gonna deal with that ice cream and deal with those calories, it is literally dependent on what I educate myself on and how I deal with that myself. So hope you enjoyed. As I said, make sure that subscribe button below to support the channel, and make sure to hit that like button and share the video as well with your friends if you find this helpful, and if you are willing to spread the good word to also educate your friends a little bit on it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.